Next up, we have Genesect. Team Skynet, Plasma, modified this giant insect to become a steel-type robot immune to all forms of pesticide, so it could effectively go back in time to kill Sarah Connor. Genesect also had its own movie where it was not portrayed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, which was Genesect and the Legend Awakened. Also Mewtwo was in it. In it, an army of 4 Genesect led by a shiny Genesect square off against Mega Mewtwo Y for reasons, and Ash and friends have to save the city and whatnot. Anyway, today we're going to examine Genesect's impact on the competitive scene. And so, we ask, how good was Genesect actually? But first, protect yourself from a Genesect download with the sponsor of this video, ExpressVPN. Thank you so much to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. I am actually thrilled to have the VPN service that I was already using before being sponsored, well, sponsor us. Again, whenever you connect to the web, you send out countless pieces of unencrypted information for everyone to see. This happens even if you're connected in incognito mode, by the way. Also, your ISP can still see what sites you're visiting and legally sell that data to advertisers, and some of them even arbitrarily throttle your connection because reasons. And it's for that reason that I use ExpressVPN, so that I can put a stop to that. A VPN provides a private connection and a virtual server that prevents anyone like governments, ISPs, and hackers connected to the same network as you from taking a look at the info you're sending out into the World Wide Web. ExpressVPN is the #1 VPN service in the country because of their ease of use, which is literally one button push, premium servers, and 24/7 customer support. Go to expressvpn.com/falseswipegaming to find out how you can get 3 months free when signing up for a 12-month subscription. And in this video, we'll be going over these competitive formats. Genesect wasn't part of the initial Black and White metagame. In fact, it wasn't available until Black and White 2. However, as soon as it was released, it instantly became not just one of the best, most dangerous Pokemon in the metagame, but the single best, most dangerous Pokemon in OU. It cannot be overstated how much it warped the metagame and defined the tier. It was used on nearly every team, and it had a significant impact on every battle. It was pretty much a perfect offensive Pokemon. It was fast, it was strong, and it didn't immediately crumple in the face of opposing attacks thanks to its decent natural bulk alongside useful typing. Its typing also made it difficult to wear down as it was neutral to Stealth Rock and immune to Sandstorm. Then there was its insane move pool. It had incredible coverage with Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Flamethrower, and Giga Drain, while it also had a powerful stab in Bug Buzz, and of course, one of the best moves in the game, U-turn. Finally, its ability, Download, was simply ridiculous. It received a boost to its attack or special attack just for switching in. For those unfamiliar, attack would be boosted if the opposing Pokemon's defense stat was lower than its special defense, while special attack would be boosted if the opposing Pokemon's defense was equal to or higher than the special defense stat. This was so scary that players tweaked their EVs and IVs just to prevent Genesect from boosting the right stat. Of course, even without an immediately abusable boost, Genesect was an absolute monster. It was easily the best choice Scarfer in the tier and was an easy lead-off Pokemon in nearly every single battle. Not only did it perform the obligatory Scarfer's task of revenge killing Dragon Dance Dragonite, the extra speed granted it the ability to threaten Pokemon that would otherwise beat it one-on-one, like Tornadus T and Keldeo. It hit just about everything incredibly hard thanks to its flawless coverage accentuated by its high attacking stats and download boosts, while maintaining momentum easily with its vicious, often boosted stab U-turn. The only Pokemon that could truly counter Genesect was Heatran, who was easily disposed of by a U-turn with Dugtrio. Some players even resorted to Shed Shell Heatran, which was a terrible waste of a Heatran, and a mark of how sparse the options for dealing with Genesect were. Genesect fit on every style of team easily. Some teams also needed to remove Heatran with Dugtrio, and thus Genesect was a natural ally. Rain teams used Dugtrio as well, since Tornadus T could easily U-turn to it against its switch-ins like Jirachi and Choppleberry Tyranitar, and Genesect happily joined the fray for more U-turn pressure and Dugtrio abuse. Sand teams didn't use Dugtrio, but Genesect U-turning out of Heatran would mean a free turn for a monster like Terrakion, Garchomp, or either Landorus form. Weatherless teams needed as much power as possible, and Genesect provided that in spades. It was an incredibly oppressive Pokemon, and that was just with its Choice Scarf set. No Scarfer had ever been as purely dominant as Genesect. Sure, there were several excellent ones that U-turned and pursued and tricked and cleaned up in the endgame, but Scarf Genesect was an actual threat itself right from the beginning of every game. Of course, it was not required to run Scarf. It eventually started using several sets that bluffed Scarf. This was ridiculously easy because opponents were required to assume Scarf, and those sets preyed on that assumption. Of course, Genesect was monstrously difficult to deal with even once the opponent did know its set, but the surprise factor took it to a whole new level. The first non-Scarf set it used had the same moveset as Scarf and simply replaced the Scarf with an expert belt. The boost to its super effective attacks was nasty when its coverage hit nearly everything super effectively, but the set's real strength was its ability to turn the tables on Pokemon that ordinarily temporarily survived against it by taking advantage of the fact that it was locked into one move. Suddenly, it was no longer a viable option. Landorus Therian switched out to Fortress and Genesect seemed stuck on Ice Beam. Next turn, Flamethrower, yeah, dead. Politoed used Protect on Thunderbolt. Oops, the Ferrothorn that seemed like a safe switch in just got Flamethrowered. Genesect locked into Flamethrower and now Choice Band Dragonite had a free turn to grab a KO with Outrage. Never mind, it just got Ice Beamed into Oblivion. Now this Genesect set wasn't perfect. It was fast and threatened the many slower Pokemon around, but without a Scarf, much of the metagame outsped it and threatened to one-hit KO it. Like Pokemon such as Landorus Incarnate, Thundurus T, Garchomp, Keldeo, Terrakion, Latios, and Thundurus T. Early on, it would still be bluffing Scarf, but once it switched moves, this could be taken advantage of by the many offensive teams running around. However, as it turns out, between Genesect's natural power, download boost, and propensity for super effective hits, it didn't really need the expert belt to grab KOs. So players slapped on a Focus Sash, and suddenly Genesect was safe to stay in on and destroyed these unsuspecting faster Pokemon. And remember that this is after it's already probably gotten a KO by switching moves after bluffing Scarf. The Scarf set was devastating, and so were the Scarf bluff sets, and the player base was clamoring for a Genesect ban. But it wasn't through yet. It still had one horrifying trick up its sleeves, the Rock Polish set. While the other Genesect sets had been dangerous, they had been more of the slice and dice variety, dashing in and out of battle. This set, on the other hand, was an instant game ender. After a boost, it outsped everything, unlike its own Scarf set, and it now blew past faster Scarfers like Garchomp and Keldeo. It packed a ton of power, since boosting its speed meant it could run a modest nature, and since it wasn't going to be switching around much, it could afford to use Life Orb. If it got a special attack boost from download, it was lights out. It was monstrously tough to handle because it took away the methods that the metagame had been using to barely hang on against it thus far, which was abusing the fact that it was locked into a move and or outspeeding it. Genesect was likely on its way out already, given how ridiculously difficult its other sets were to deal with, but the discovery of the Rock Polish set removed any doubt. Genesect was the first Pokemon banned in Black and White 2, and deservedly so, having thoroughly rocked the landscape of OU. But we're not done with Gen 5 Genesect just yet though, because it was a force and a half in Ubers as well. It exclusively ran Choice Scarf, but with just that set, it was comfortably among the very best Pokemon in the tier. Ubers was a spike-centric metagame, and U-turn is among the best ways to abuse spikes. Genesect's fast stab U-turn threatened the ever-present Soul Dew Lati twins, and seriously stung whatever switched in to absorb it, in part due to hazard support, and Ubers' lack of super sturdy bug resist, but also because download gave Genesect an attack boost against the Latis thanks to their lower defense stat. Now the Latis were Genesect's biggest threat, since they were immensely popular due to their important defensive role against Tier King Kyogre, but Genesect also preyed on other dangerous Pokemon with U-turn weaknesses in Darkrai, Mewtwo, and Deoxys attack. Its steel typing also allowed it to take an attack or two against 3 Pokemon stabs, meaning it did not have trouble getting onto the field. Genesect also did over 50% to several bug neutral Pokemon that gave it an attack boost, most notably Kyogre and Palkia. It was like running Choice Band and Choice Scarf on the same set. In a one-on-one against Calm Mind Arceus, boosted Iron Heads were dangerous. Genesect tended to only need a flinch or two and could take a hit in return and won many games that seemed hopeless as a result. When its health was weakened from U-turning around the hazards up, it could go out with a bang, literally as a boosted explosion hit hard. Now, while Genesect did only run Scarf, it did have some variety to that set. The standard at first was the physically based variant, which made the most out of the constant download attack boost it received. However, that set had trouble cleaning up late game. As it turned out, this was easily fixed by shifting Genesect over to a specially based set. Bug Buzz was like a U-turn that didn't force Genesect to switch, and sun boosted flamethrowers were fierce. Genesect got plenty of opportunities for a special attack boost by coming in on a Pokemon like Groudon, who was seriously stung by Ice Beam, now that Genesect had special attack EVs. Plus, many players EV'd Pokemon like Arceus and Mewtwo to give Genesect a special attack boost so its U-turn wouldn't sting as much. This special set took advantage of that and added some depth to Genesect's game. However, when it came down to it, it was player preference. Genesect could feasibly run nothing but Choice Scarf and U-turn and still be one of the best Pokemon in Ubers. So overall, Genesect absolutely dominated the 5th generation, both in Ubers and OU. Genesect was re-released in OU in Gen 6, and it had some new tricks. A new event had given it powerful priority extreme speed and terrific coverage in Blaze Kick. Now, it was locked to being shiny alongside a hasty nature, but that was a fine trade-off for these excellent moves. Complementing them was Genesect's fierce stab U-turn, dangerous as ever, as well as Iron Head with new use in slamming fairy types like Clefable. As a result, it had an absolutely devastating choice band set. It hit just about everything hard thanks to download, and it effortlessly maintained momentum with U-turn, and was even an effective revenge killer without needing Choice Scarf, thanks to the sheer power of a banded extreme speed, potentially boosted further by download. For example, it did a whopping 76 to 90% against Mega Charizard Y, one of Genesect's better checks. Thanks to extreme speed's higher priority, it even outpaced Talonflame's Gale Wings, despite Genesect being slower, making it a decent check to offensive variants. Though it was the new go-to, Choice Band wasn't the only thing Genesect could run. In addition to the continued excellent to its old standbys of Scarf and Rock Polish, it put a twist on its old Focus Sash set. It added Hidden Power Ground to bait and destroy its once supposedly safe check, Heatran, opening up paths for teammates such as Mega Scizor. Dealing with Genesect was such a struggle because you didn't know how to handle it before you knew what set it was, since its answers could vary so vastly thanks to its huge move pool, and it was so powerful that you would often be destroyed by it even after you found out what set it was. Genesect was just too overbearing, and as a result, it was banned in the first suspect test of XY, alongside the similarly ridiculous Mega Lucario. Genesect wasn't able to repeat its standing as one of the best Pokemon in Ubers. As a matter of fact, it was pretty awful. It started out decently in X and Y, checking Mewtwo, Darkrai, and Deoxys attack with a strong, momentum-maintaining U-turn, which was always nice. However, it was held back by several factors. First of all, Soul Dew was unavailable, and thus its favorite victims, the Laddie twins, weren't around, severely limiting the opportunity Genesect had to get in and cause havoc in any game. Its U-turn also stung a lot less because they were no longer reliably complemented by spikes, as spikes were no longer nearly as present in the previous generation with the newfound ubiquity of the buffed Defog, meaning Pokemon like Dialga shrugged it off without much trouble. Plus, with Defog so easily pulled off, Regenerator Ho-Oh was around to wall Genesect forever. Furthermore, and most crucially, Genesect was a steel type completely unable to check the mighty meta-defining Xerneas, which caused restrictions in team building, as its team would either have to run Sticky Web or pick another from the small pool of Xerneas checks, as teams usually preferred their steel type to help out in that regard. Finally, it was not guaranteed to check Mewtwo. It was fine against regular Mewtwo and Mega Mewtwo Y, but the half-fighting Mega Mewtwo X wasn't threatened by it at all. Genesect was an alright Pokemon, but it only fit on very particular momentum-setting hyper offense teams. Then Oraz came around and there was hope, as Soul Dew returned and the Laddie twins returned to the forefront of the metagame. But with them came Primal Groudon and Mega Salamence, and Genesect dropped out of the metagame altogether. There was simply no hope for it. All its old issues remained, and it gained two devastating new ones in a metagame filled with Primal Groudon that completely stuffed it, and Dragon Dance Mega Salamence that Genesect didn't have a ghost of a chance at checking, since Salamence's flying typing meant it was immune to the Sticky Web trick Genesect could try and pull on Xerneas. It was just not worth using Genesect in Oraz Ubers, and thus nobody did. To the chagrin of nearly the entire player base, Genesect returned to OU at the beginning of Generation 7, and it had more victims than ever. With 3 of the 4 Tapus being vulnerable to it, it abused the terrains those same Tapus brought, and it once again expanded its repertoire of devastating sets. As always, Choice Scarf, Choice Band, Rock Polish, and All-Out Attacker sets were excellent. The latter 2 were especially devastating because Genesect could overwhelm its checks even more easily with even more power thanks to Z-moves. Z-moves powered up by download at that. It didn't even need to take up its team's Z Crystal though. Life Orb's power got the job done, and its recoil was relatively riskless, considering it lost a net 3% per turn in grassy terrain. Its coverage was as unpredictable and dangerous as ever. Even something that should have been fairly secure against Genesect, like the combination of Heatran and Mantine, dropped to the combination of Hidden Power Ground and Thunderbolt, one of the more common Genesect variations for its ability to smack Toxapex and Celesteela around. Genesect had never really used its exclusive drive items and its signature move Technoblast before competitively, but now some players were using the Douse drive, as Genesect didn't have any water coverage options otherwise, and this allowed it to destroy Volcarona and Alolan Marowak, while still nullifying Heatran as a check. Finally, some players used Choice Specs, which was the most immediately powerful. There was nothing like a download boosted Specs Bug Buzz, ripping through just about everything, accompanied by a powerful Thunderbolt that thrashed the few things that could safely resist it, especially if electric terrain was active. Once again, Genesect's overtly expansive move pool made it unpredictable, and when combined with its raw power, it was just too much for OU. As a result, it was banned in the metagame's first suspect test for the second generation in a row, and for its third out of 3 generations of OU overall. Unfortunately, Genesect was doomed from day one of Sun and Moon Ubers on account of Primal Groudon and Mega Salamence continuing to exist, as well as increased distribution of Defog. Some players attempted to make use of Choice Band, and its powerful extreme speed offered some respite against powerful speed boosting sweepers like Xerneas and Mega Mints. Explosion also managed to KO Ho-Oh and max HP Arceus. However, as a whole, this set was outdone by Mega Scizor and Magearna, whose actual defensive utility and longevity against Xerneas in particular made them far better fits on teams as opposed to Genesect, who struggled to get on the field safely, and often did nothing but leave its team with less slots to check more Pokemon. Mega Scizor had a plethora of useful moves like Knockoff, Pursuit, and Defog that it could use to remain useful without sacrificing itself against Ho-Oh, while Magearna's Heal Bell could shrug off the Sacred Fire burns Ho-Oh threatened on its teammates. Magearna also came with the benefit of checking the massively dangerous Yveltal. Come Ultra Sun and Moon, and the situation worsened. Necrozma Duskmane joined the fray, and it was more or less a perfect bulky steal that was also capable of threatening opposing teams far better than Genesect could. As a result, Genesect became obsolete in Generation 7 Ubers. And that's it. So how good was Genesect actually? Well, it's had to say hasta la vista baby to OU relatively quickly 3 times in the 3 generations it's existed, and that pretty much says all you need to know. With its expansive move pool, solid speed, great offensive and defensive typing, high attack and special attack, and one of the best abilities in the game in download, it is one of the greatest killing machines the game has ever seen. In Generation 5, it was also one of the best, most definitive Pokemon in Ubers, and although it faded into obscurity in the tier in the following 2 generations, there is no denying that Genesect is one of the best Pokemon of all time. It's currently not released in Gen 8, but have no fear, it will be back. And also, no, it's not allowed in VGC, it's a mythical Pokemon. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, if you liked the video and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to False Swipe Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content, and in the comments, I want to know, what do you think about competitive Genesect? Would you buff it even more to let it do things in Ubers? Whatever it is, let me know in the comments. Also, thank you so much to our patrons for continued support of our videos, and thank you to everyone else watching as well. And follow my crew on these social media platforms. And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone.